ATM Blowout. ATM Blowout is a syndicated live program of the network. Our job here is very simple. We bring you conversation on special interest topics. We'll do this through news events and stories and using our correspondent reports from across the nation and beyond. And of course, we don't forget to let you know that we do stakeholders' opinion, stakeholders and experts' opinion as analysts on the show. So today on the issues in the news on ATM Blowouts, we'll be taking up with anchors chat, education, determination, and ethical compass to overcome Nigeria's challenges.
And from our judiciary retreat, democracy can only thrive in respect for rule of law, coming from Ariwola.
Physician Week 2023, NMA demand investigation into medical education offered Nigerians in Ukraine.
Concerning November 11, we have INEC NSA security meeting rescheduled to Friday.
On National Assembly retreat, Prof. Jagat denies saying 2023 elections was compromised.
National Conference will have there is nothing wrong with Nigeria's constitution, Agabi.
On Deputy Governors Summit, federal government asks governors to assign relevant roles to deputy governors.
Concerning Nigerian economy, we have Tinubu vows to honor legitimate foreign exchange obligations.
Our guest on the show this morning is a professor of law, Professor Clifford Wanyawo, but he's speaking with us today as a public affairs analyst. Stay with us. We'll come back to you on Anchor's chat after the break.
From the land across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATM. From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATM.
back to ATN Blowout, and it's time for Anchor's Chats. President Bola Tinubu on Monday at the 37th and 38th combined convocation ceremony of the University of Ilorin has said education, determination, and ethical compass of Nigerian youth would help the nation overcome its present challenges. According to the president, who was represented by the Minister of State for Education, Malam Yusuf Sunu, said Nigeria stands at a crucial juncture in history. He said our nation's progress and prosperity depend on the efforts and innovation of its citizens. President Tinubu further acknowledged the economic challenges faced by Nigerians, particularly in the wake of the removal of petroleum subsidies and how this has led to increased costs for many citizens. He said the government will explore investments in alternative energy sources, infrastructure, and public services. He further urged corporate bodies, communities, and individuals to support Nigerian universities through innovative methods. Through innovative funding methods. President Tinubu reaffirmed the government's commitment to championing impactful education and ensuring that both lecturers and students have access to the best facilities to enhance their individual capabilities. Now, it's quite interesting that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is super interested in quality education and its impact to the Nigerian society, especially in the life of young persons. But if you reflect this, let me start from there. If you reflect this on his approach to the issue concerning his own certification, which, like the average person in this country and beyond would agree, have brought a bit of an embarrassment to each and every one of us. Then you begin to wonder, is this just playing to the gallery? Or is there something else we're looking out for here? Looking back at the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I respect the fact that this man has a good head on his shoulder, irrespective of what you might think about him as a person. But is that enough? When you are talking about education, and then the average young person you're talking to clearly knows that education is not the reason why you got to where you got to in the first place as Nigeria's president, how do we really begin to put that side by side to say, okay, this works because he did A, B, C, D. Well, does that mean that as a president he shouldn't invest in education? No, not really. I don't think so. He should do whatever it takes to ensure that there is quality education. I mean, he's also talking about the students' loan that will be taken up by January, in as much as a lot of critics also have their angst towards the implementation of that and the possibility that students would actually get loan easily by using this student loan act that is now in place. If you put all of this side by side again, and you also look at, he has also said that he's going to pay us 4 months out of their 8 months no work, no pay salary arrears. He has said that. But again, if we are going to look at this from the angle of what exactly does the president represent as an individual when it comes to education, are all of this playing to the gallery? Are we going to come to a point where you can actually look back and say, hey, this is the situation? In the Supreme Court right yesterday, we learned that there are 2 different letters from Chicago State University attesting to different results, one for and against. And now we don't know the authentic. Maybe we need to now go back to the U.S. courts again to ask them to bring the Chicago State maybe chancellor or vice chancellor to authenticate which of these later came from them. If you look at the whole deposition process in the U.S. and then coming back and all of the argument for and against, one begins to wonder if this president genuinely believes that education is going to be one of those things that will have a major impact in the life of young persons. Then would he actually own up to the state of his own academic certification that has been a major cause of opprobrium across board, whether from his party or beyond his party? Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State literally asked him to tender his resignation, to step down because of this nature of this whole conversation. Now, he has also gone to court to also talk about stopping the Supreme Court shouldn't listen to Atiku's appeal on his certifications. So, you know, we started off by saying when the Chicago State University thing, a lot were like, oh, his party members and supporters were, oh, Atiku is not going to make anything out of the Chicago State University stuff. Oh, it's just one of those things and all of that. Yeah, that may be one of those things. But the question again is, if it's indeed one of those things, why are you now asking them to stop the result, stop the U.S. court shouldn't release it, and how it's going to cost you a lot of damage to your reputation and all of that? Now they've released it. BBC, for instance, was also used as a pod in the game to ensure that they clean up the act. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out well because Nigerians across board and media professionals pulled the actual deposition receipts out. And now that has died down. Now you're also in the Supreme Court talking about, oh, how you don't want to do this. So if you're not going to be an exemplary leader by saying, I actually went to school, these are my certifications, stand up tall and defend yourself, speak up. I mean, on what moral grounds can a young person who know that you became a president without properly authenticating the source of your certification and you became a president, on what moral grounds can a young person say that that is not the way to go? How do you begin to explain all of that? So I don't know, but I honestly think that if this is anything to go by, if Nigeria's president is really genuinely interested in quality education, respecting the process of educating individuals and the impact this would have in a nation, in developing a country like Nigeria, for instance, I think one of the things that all Nigerians is the ability to stand up to say, oh, there was issue with my certifications. I made a mistake. I thought third-party vendors could get me the authentic result. I thought this was a thing that was possible. You know, in making those statements, it becomes easy for someone to say, oh, okay, take a responsibility. Kemi Adeosun, a one-time finance minister in this country, appointed by President Muhammad Buhari. Yeah, when the issue of her NYC came up, she took a bow. And now that's what when you find yourself in a situation where it's like you made a mistake, people expect you to respect the process that may have been corrupted by your no action, knowingly or unknowingly, and step aside. That would be the sanest thing to do. But if we're not talking about that, and we'll have your lawyers going to court and, you know, trying to suppress information that has been brought to the fore that seem to estray the fact that you had issues with your certification and all of that. So, you know, this particular action right now, like the outcome of one of the outcomes of the Supreme Court yesterday was the fact that the Justice Okoro said, oh, there are two letters from Chicago State University. This particular action is rubbing off negatively over an institution in the United States of America, and that's the Chicago State University, rubbing off negatively, totally negatively on this institution. And now we're still dragging it as if the first one was not enough. We're now hearing that there are two different letters. So we're now back to, authenticating this. And the Supreme Court is telling Atiku to ensure that this is a criminal case and whatever he's bringing to the table should be A, B, C, D. My dear, I don't know how the president can feel comfortable having someone speak for him in his name, talking to young people about education and quality of education when you cannot even authenticate the roots that brought you to where you are as Nigeria's president in terms of your academic qualification. I think it leaves more to be seen if indeed the Supreme Court will just throw this off as a criminal case, or would they actually demand for the president, give an ultimatum for him to come clean on what exactly his certification are and deal with that? I mean, all of this would now be left for the Supreme Court and, well, maybe other sources of information that may be out there.
Oh, well, first of all, I could just feel how much this has really gotten into the minds of people concerning President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's academic records. But for what the anchors chart is concerning the 37th and 38th convocation ceremony of the University of Ilorin, it's quite commendable that the president actually had a say in that convocation. You know, the part that actually caught my attention was where he made a statement. He said President Tinubu reaffirmed government's commitment to ensuring impactful education, and that lecturers and students would have all the facilities they need to make all that concerns their learning, quite less stressful and all that. So the point is, for me, impactful education, in what sense is the government actually trying to come forth with this? Impactful education actually, to me, would mean what's the education you have gone for, how you're able to actually bring it on at the end of your stay in school, at the end of your years in the higher institution. So, but the government has said what it has said. And I, for one, personally would look forward to actually seeing that these things, these promises are looked into and actually accomplished. Because really, so many higher institutions still find themselves scampering, struggling to have their lectures, the convenience and all of that is not yet put in place. So if the President Tinubu's administration can actually go ahead to do this, it will really go a long way to help all the students that are undergraduates in most of these higher institutions. It will really go a long way for lecturers to have it very convenient, because most times, those days I used to wonder how lecturers expect students to give their best. Sometimes I remember those days I went to the Faculty of Engineering to meet with my elder brother, and they happened to be writing exams those days, and they were writing the exams on the floor. I couldn't imagine that. Most of them, that the facilities, the seats were not enough for. We had to stay on the ground writing. It was so pathetic seeing that. So I look forward to seeing that the federal government actually goes a long way to do whatever it can to ensure that lecturers and students have less stress-free, conducive environments to actually achieve what they have come to school for.
Well, if you talk about education funding and the need for the government to maybe make do of their promises, again, it's neither here nor there, because if you don't have actual, genuine value for education, how can you really genuinely fund education for what is what? We have, again, a constitution that tells us that you don't really need to have a higher education. If your ability to read and write, if you can get a certification from the City and Guilds, I need to figure that. I've not been able to check what that means. Maybe I think it's a kind of a certification body in those days. I don't know. Then they talk about if you're able to have your school certificate, which is your primary 6. That's what the Constitution says. You can be the president of Nigeria. So if the makers of our law, the writers of our Constitution, looking at that, how debased they expect anyone who is taking the lead ahead of us to be in terms of educational qualification. I don't know why these things I kept thinking about it yesterday into this morning, and I'm wondering, why should we even expect quality education in a country where the Constitution does not even require those who are taking the lead amongst us, to have proper qualification? Why should we be expecting that? Now, let's even take it off from the government. TET Fund, which is part of a government funding body, that funds structural development, for instance, within Nigerian universities. Now, within the same universities, you were talking about your older brother writing exam on the floor back then and all of that. Within the universities, there are structures built by TET Fund. TET Fund, well, maybe they have their own contractor, or the contractor comes from the VC or the school, each school's arrangement, I don't know. But if you go to look at those structures, what are the quality of materials used in development? This is a building they just finished building in 1 year. Go back there in the next 6 months. Just look at the seats. Look at the look at the roof. Look at the internal furnishings. Look at the maybe the ceiling fan. Look at the TV set and everything you think that was there at the point when that structure came into place. They no longer exist. Who is being held responsible for that? I was in a Prague lab in University of Port Harcourt a few weeks ago. I noticed that that's supposed to be that's supposed to be the public advertising and the public relations lab, for instance. Now, the speaker wasn't there. The public address system wasn't there. The AC wasn't working. You know, the TV set, like, what makes this a lab, for instance? Now, is it President Tinubu, for instance, as a president who may have, if he invested, authorized or did whatever through the process of governance and ensure that TED Fund releases funds to the University of Port Harcourt, is he the one that is going to ensure that those structures are maintained? Because that is also where it comes from. So there is something fundamentally wrong with this system that we are operating right now called Nigeria. The absence of consequence management in our daily life as a people, in our daily life as a government, robs us of every good thing that should come to the fore. Because, you know, it's talking about education and its impact in development generally, and funding of research, for instance. University of Ilorin is one of the universities that has made some ground impacts with research funding and winning certain prizes and all of that. But if you put all of that against IBAS, how many Nigerian universities can actually compete with that? They made this feat because someone volunteered, someone made sure that he or she would push for that to ensure that the university participated, and that's why they won. If you also bring that back to the fact that we talk about education in Nigeria, it's seen as a gift to certain individuals who can afford quality education. Is not something that the average Nigerian child should feel like, okay, I'm a Nigerian, I'm entitled to quality education. So all of this, for me, as an individual sitting down here today, boils down to one thing, and that's the fact that until we bring the conversation about education, what it should be, from the classroom to the corporate body, to and other professional body, and into politics itself, into governance itself. I do not think that we are ready to have a nation where we can say we are proud of anything. The name one policy of this government that you can say, or even the past administration, that you can say was well thought out and it has a proper impact in the people. Look at the social welfare scheme right now, social register issue we're talking about the other time, the Empower, the whatever name, trader money or whatever you call school feeding, just name one thing, because until we get to the point when we realize, there's a story we discussed, was it yesterday also, where I think it was Engineer Baribe was talking about, okay, still on this issue of the Constitution, and it's the basest level of education, such education qualification that you expect for anyone, even the president of a country. Now, here is the thing. One of the things that Engineer Baribe mentioned in that story was how in certain schools, somewhere in the northern universities, even if you are qualified, because you're not from the catchment area, you will not be given admission into some core professional medicine, law, and what have you. You know, it goes to certain class of individuals. In this same country, you have made education look like in the north, it has to be lesser. The question is why? If you're a northerner and I'm a southerner and we're working in this organization, is your salary going to be more than mine because I'm from the north or you're from the south? The answer is no. Why do you have this special treatment given to these people, whereas other people don't have something, that don't have similar treatment? And then I'm just saying that, yes, the caption of this story is very apt in the sense that education is at the core of our national development. But whether it's a different conversation altogether, but until we agree that the need for education and what education should be in the first place, again, After Babalola yesterday, one of the stories we also talked about, raised an issue about a young graduate, a first-class graduate that was given scholarship to go do his master's. And then he came back and was looking, what, well done. He didn't even remember. He said, well done, you're done. He said, just go ahead and pick up your form for PhD. And the guy said, no, I'm going into politics. I was going to university. We don't have any business going into normal university. We're supposed to go get a certification, vocational skill, get trained, get certified, begin to provide quality service in the country. I have some of my schoolmates who struggled through school. One of them is one of the very fantastic designer right now, doing so well for herself. I don't even think she remember her experience at University of Port Harcourt and all of that. But today she is a clothes designer. She left everything she did in Uniport and just went and got something else for herself. And I said to her, imagine if you had started in your 20s. In your teens, after secondary school, and you were sent into these fashion design institutes. Your parents spent that money, they spent it to train you through this. Imagine by now, with such gifting, where you would have been. Because I think, generally, there is a lot we need to talk about when it comes to education in Nigeria. And if anybody doesn't mind me saying this, I think we actually need to call for a national conference or summit on education, and begin to dissect this thing we are doing called education, and how we as a nation, because again, if our constitution feels like you don't need proper certification, we don't have value for actual education in this. It's just a charity. And until we decide to say we want to take education as a real issue and revisit some of these things, like I said yesterday, over the weekend, we discovered that in their communique, which I read, it didn't talk about amending that part of the Constitution that talks about the education of qualification of public office holders, like elected officials and all of that. It didn't talk about that. The question is, why? Meanwhile, right now in Nigeria, the major news about Nigeria that is hitting us hard as a nation has to do with the president's certification issues. If this is not enough for the National Assembly to look into this particular constitutional matter that has to do with the qualification of public office holders, then what exactly makes anyone think that any of these leaders will take any issue of education seriously? I mean, why do they send their kids abroad anyway?
Well, as you were talking, I also remember that there's a great chasm between private institutions and state institutions. Yes, because I don't know why.
That's government-owned institutions.
Yeah, government-owned institutions. Private, yeah. I don't know why I particularly picked interest in that paragraph where it was said that the president is going. He reaffirms the government's commitment to ensuring that there is a lot done when it has to concerns impactful education and the facilities that these institutions use. I just was forced to remember some meetings I had years past when you stand side by side with those who actually graduated from private institutions. You begin to ask yourself some questions, because the issue about impactful education seems to be more favorable to those who actually found themselves in private institutions. So I don't know if that begs to question why the government actually believes that it should do more as it concerns government-owned government-owned higher institutions, because those places are like we go to read novels, we just go to read things and fall out, but there's nothing impactful when you're out of the university, you've graduated, and there is no impact you have to offer, by reasons of being educated at that level. So we really have a lot to do. The government should just actually step forward to do exactly this, because it will be very commendable to see graduates stand, on grounds to actually defend confidently with those who have actually passed through the private institutions.
Well, I agree with you. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope that, for me, the issue around education and what education should be, how we should view education, and the need for constitutional amendment when it comes to issues surrounding education in this country is long overdue. And I hope that we can all bring up. There are several minds that we have produced in this country that just literally, lives on the shores of this country, get funding for research, and then they are picked up by different countries, provided all the support they want, and they are provided quality services in these countries, and we are losing out every day. Look at the number of medical practitioners, healthcare workers who left this country in droves as of last year and are still on it this year, and because nothing seems to be changing even in the health sector. And these are sound minds that are meant to provide quality services in this country, and we are just watching all of them live in droves. What are we doing to ourselves? I honestly hope that someone can pick it up and decide that there is need for national emergency to declare a state of emergency in education and what education should be. Let's take time to find a way to begin to talk about redefining education in Nigeria. Until we do that, I do not think we are ready to really address the core issues that have affected development in this country. Because when you say it because politicians, they don't know what they are doing. These politicians are the same people who came through the same system that we are in right now. They are not angels that fell from heaven. They ate the same food we ate, they operated the same system, they cheated through the system. These are people who could have lecturers, they could, give some money and they pass them in exams, and then they get these certifications that they don't even know what they have. They can't even defend it in actual sense. So look at the number of forgery cases when it comes certificate forgery cases that are bound, that came out of just 2023 elections. And then you begin to wonder, where were all of these before now? It used to be one person in a blue, once in a blue where you hear, one politician for certificate, and they wouldn't even go in. But look at the litany of cases that has to do with certificate forgery that came out of just 2023 election. Now you can imagine with what happened out in the University of Calabar with Professor Ndifo Cyril. You can now imagine, like, in a few years' time, if we think what we're seeing as certificate forgeries right now, you can imagine what is going to pan out in years down the line with the economic situation where some lecturers have chosen to compromise on quality, accept whatever, deliver courses, give grades in courses, and then people jump out, they pass they are graduates of this discipline and all of that, and at the end of the day, you have people who, for instance, studied mass communication. They don't know a thing. I had a copper come in here at some point. I was looking at this young woman. I'm like, she came in from a private university, by the way. I'm like, hold on. You mean, like, there's nothing you ask that she has an answer to. But she's a copper.
From a private university?
Yes, from Akwa Ibom State. The private university is in Akwa Ibom State. She was sent here as a copper. So this is actually how sad our situation is. And if we fail to look into the need to actually redefine education, have a national view of what education should be,